All right, you guys. So, like I said yesterday, I had no time to make a new introduction. I was able to put that together here before we did the show today, and I hope that it is a fitting, if not, simple tribute to Charlie and to his memory. We do obviously have a lot to talk about with regards to the assassination of Charlie Kirk today. And we're going to get started. But first, obviously, today is the anniversary of 9/11. And President Trump gave an address earlier. I took that segment where he said that he will be posthumously awarding Charlie the Medal of Freedom, I believe it was. And he also, of course, kicked off this morning by speaking about the heroes who lost their lives in 9/11 24 years ago. Let's take a listen. Now, also considering that today is 9/11, there will be a special showing of Codex 9/11 in Fort Lauderdale tonight. I was hoping to be there, but Lisa and I are down to one car right now. She had to work today, so I was unable to leave in time to do that. Would have meant also that I wouldn't have been able to do the show today here on my own channel. So I will be calling in to be part of the question and answer session after the viewing of 9/11. Of Codex 9/11. It'll also be broadcast on Badlands Media. So if you guys feel like tuning into that, then I will be live a little bit later on tonight as well. And I can only hope that with all of this attention continuing to be shown on the events that took place 24 years ago and the light that is shown on what really happened, that perhaps we're going to continue to get more information from the administration and people will be exposed for what they've done. All right, so now we're going to turn once again to Charlie. First, I have a eulogy that was written here by J.D. Vance. And he begins by saying, a while ago, probably 2017, I appeared on Tucker Carlson's Fox show to talk about God knows what. Afterwards, a name I barely knew sent me a DM on Twitter and told me I did a great job. It was Charlie Kirk, and that moment of kindness began a friendship that lasted until today. Charlie was fascinated by ideas and always willing to learn and change his mind. Like me, he was skeptical of Trump in 2016. And like me, he came to see President Trump as the only figure capable of moving American politics away from the globalism that had dominated for our entire lives. When others were right, he learned from them. When he was right, as he usually was, he was generous. With Charlie, the attitude was never, I told you so, but you're welcome. Charlie was one of the first people I called when I thought about running for Senate in early 2021. I was interested but skeptical that there was a pathway. We talked through everything from the strategy to the fundraising to the grassroots of the movement that he knew so well. He introduced me to some of the people who would run my campaign and also to Donald Trump Jr. Like his dad, he's misunderstood. He's extremely smart and very much on our wavelength. Don took a call from me because Charlie asked him to. Long before I ever committed, even in my own mind, to running, Charlie had me speak to his donors at a TP USA event. He walked me around the room, he introduced me, he gave me honest feedback on my remarks, and he had no reason to do this, no expectation that I'd go anywhere. I was polling at that point well below 5%. He did it because we were friends and because he was a good man. When I became the VP nominee, something Charlie advocated for, both in public and private, Charlie was there for me. I was so glad to be part of the president's team, but candidly surprised by the effect it had on our family. Our kids, especially my oldest, struggled with the attention and the constant presence of the protective detail. I felt this acute sense of guilt that I had conscripted my kids into this life without getting their permission. And Charlie was constantly calling and texting, checking on our family, offering guidance and prayers. Some of our most successful events were organized not by the campaign, but by TP USA. He wasn't just a thinker, he was a doer, turning big ideas into bigger events and thousands of activists. And after every event, he would give me a big hug, tell me he was praying for me, and ask me what he could do. You focus on Wisconsin, he'd tell me. Arizona's in the bag. And it was. Charlie genuinely believed in and loved Jesus Christ. He had a profound faith. We used to argue about Catholicism and Protestantism and who was right about minor doctrinal questions. But because he loved God, he wanted to understand him. Someone else pointed out that Charlie died doing what he loved, discussing ideas. He would go into these hostile crowds and answer their questions. If it was a friendly crowd and a progressive asked a question to jeers from the audience, he'd encourage his fans to calm down and let everyone speak. He exemplified a foundational virtue of our republic, the willingness to speak openly and debate ideas. Charlie had an uncanny ability to know when to push the envelope and when to be more conventional. I've seen people attack him for years for being wrong on this or that issue publicly, never realizing that privately he was working to broaden the scope of acceptable debate. He was a great family man. I was talking to President Trump in the Oval Office today, and he said, "I know he was a very good friend of yours." I nodded silently, and President Trump observed that Charlie really loved his family. And the president was right. Charlie was so proud of Erica and the two kids. He was so happy to be a father, and he felt such gratitude for having found a woman of God with whom he could build a family. Charlie Kirk was the true friend, the kind of guy you could say something to and know that it would always stay with him. I am on more than a few group chats with Charlie and people that he introduced me to over the years. We celebrate weddings and babies. We bust each other's chops and mourn the loss of loved ones. We talk about politics and policy and sports and life. These group chats include people at the very highest level of our government. They trusted him, loved him, and knew that he'd always have their backs. And because he was a true friend, you could instinctively trust the people Charlie introduced you to. So much of the success we've had in this administration traces directly to Charlie's ability to organize and convene. He didn't just help us win in 2024. He helped us staff the entire government. I was in a meeting in the West Wing when those group chats started lighting up with people telling Charlie that they were praying for him. And that's how I learned the news that my friend had been shot. I prayed a lot over the next hour, as first good news and then bad trickled in. God didn't answer those prayers, and that's okay. He had other plans. And now that Charlie's in heaven, I'll ask him to talk to the big man directly on behalf of his family, his friends, and the country that he loves so dearly. You ran a good race, my friend, and we've got it from here. Oh, God. Also coming in, of course, other people that were close to Charlie, world political leaders. Argentine President Javier Milei made a post about it. Of course, it was in Spanish. We're just going to read the English translation, but he said, "My condolences to the family of Charlie Kirk and to all the young people in the world who admired him and listened to him. A formidable dissenter of the ideas of freedom and staunch defender of the West. He was the victim of an atrocious murder in the midst of a wave of left-wing political violence across the entire region. The left is always, at all times and places, a violent phenomenon full of hatred. The entire world lost an incredible human being. Goodbye." Now, I talked about this very topic with Adel in the last hour over on Badlands and 412. And the truth of the matter is, these people cannot meet us in the battlefield of ideas. They cannot match us with wit. They can't match us with brains. They can't match us on any level. The only place they can come at us is physically. The only threat they are is that they are willing to take our lives. And there is an important lesson to be learned here. There are some people that are too far gone. There are some people who are so ideologically programmed because they're communist, Marxist, socialist, and they believe that their ideas, however flawed, will always be better than ours. And in order to prove that, they're willing to kill us. For some people, they are not redeemable in any respect. And we spoke at length about what do we do with those people? Because if they're out there in the world, they will constantly present a threat to the lives of good people. Christians especially are most willing to break bread and have conversations. But these people who have told us that they want us dead, the people who celebrate the murder of a husband and father, I don't think that those people should be allowed to roam the streets. And I think that communism, Marxism, socialism, as talking points, as ideologies, I think that they should not be allowed in a free and open society because they're antithetical to a free and open society. I think that they should be taught as the worst example of what happens when you take an ideology to its logical extreme, to an extreme of violence. And I don't think that communists should be able to hold office. I don't think that they should be able to hold positions of power. I don't think that they should be able to hold positions of influence, because when they hold those positions, they inevitably use that power, influence, and position to brainwash others and to enforce their ideology on the world. And that is dangerous. When that's allowed, this is the outcome. Tulsi Gabbard has also put forward a statement, and she says, much in the same vein as J.D. Vance did, Charlie Kirk was truly one of a kind, loving, and courageous soul who lived what he preached. His view that our political, social, and spiritual differences should be debated freely and respectfully was something he put into practice every day, a living embodiment of the vision our founders had for our country. The person who shot Charlie Kirk sought to silence him, using violence to take away his freedom of speech by ending his life and to terrorize those who think like Charlie into silence. This evil act is the very definition of terrorism, an unlawful use of violence and intimidation in the pursuit of political or religious aims. Today, on the anniversary of 9/11, we recognize that whether it's Islamists like Al-Qaeda or the fanatics who try to stop Charlie Kirk and others from speaking the truth by banning them from campuses and ultimately by assassination, the one thing they have in common is that they are so afraid that their arguments, views, and policies will not stand when challenged in free and open debate that they resort to violence, not only to silence the people they want to shut down, but to terrorize everyone else into silence. Charlie Kirk stood up to such fanatics who hate freedom and want to silence any who dare to challenge the so-called liberal establishment. This assassination killed him to prevent his voice from being heard, prevent him from inspiring others, as he did every day, and to terrorize and intimidate the American people into silence. I was sickened but not surprised when I saw the propaganda media like MSNBC react by encouraging and justifying this evil. Within minutes of the shooting, they said Charlie brought it upon himself. They said the very same thing about President Donald Trump after both assassination attempts on his life. And the Islamists who attacked us on 9/11 also make the same argument, i.e. that the American people deserved the attack. What they're really telling us is, shut up, be quiet, or face the consequences. We cannot allow this darkness and evil to perpetuate. Charlie truly loved our country and dedicated his life to protecting our God-given rights. We must honor his life's work and the promise of America by continuing to lift our own voices and defend our God-given freedoms enshrined in our Constitution. I'm devastated that Erica lost her husband today. Their children lost their father, and so many of us lost a dear friend. Our nation lost one of our greatest champions of freedom, and I pray Charlie is now able to rest in the warm embrace of God's love. He will be dearly missed. This is why Charlie is not going to be forgotten. He won't have died in vain, because this single action, as I said yesterday, has essentially turned him into a martyr for freedom, a martyr for liberty. And the people who are responsible for this are not going to get away with it. Now, J.D. Vance also announced that he met with Erica, Charlie's wife, and their 2 children in Salt Lake City. And they're going to be taking Charlie back home to be buried in Arizona on Air Force 2. That is probably happening right now or happened already. But I just wanted to say, God bless JD, because this is not something that he had to do, obviously, but what an honor for Charlie and for the family. Now, I also just happened to see this. This is just kind of one of those, like, wow moments. But Matt Van Swole yesterday had posted about the murder of Irina Zatroska. I can't remember if that's how you pronounce her name, but he had posted about her murder on X, and he said, "I don't think you understand the level of radicalization this has caused within me. I will never be the same person after watching this video. We do not have to live this way." This was the last thing that Charlie responded to on X before he was murdered. And it's kind of ironic because in the same way that people are feeling radicalized by the murder of this young woman, people are also feeling radicalized by the murder of Charlie Kirk. You know, I didn't seek out to watch the video of Charlie being shot, but I saw it almost as soon as I went on X yesterday. And it's not something that you can unsee. It is very, very disturbing. Now, this morning, Steven Crowder was able to obtain and then publish a leaked ATF document which detailed some information that was later confirmed by a press conference that officials gave early this morning. So clearly the manhunt is still ongoing. I'll be checking, every couple of minutes to see if anybody has been caught. But FBI, ATF, they did a press conference this morning to talk about the contents of this document. So the document says, conservative political influencer Charlie Kirk was shot and killed at the Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. This is obviously from the day that this happened. Mr. Kirk was speaking at the university as part of the American Comeback Tour. Now, just for the record, because I saw somebody on TikTok, or maybe it was X, they were like, they're trying to point out weird things that they saw with this assassination. They asked the question, why would he be doing an event on a random Wednesday on a college campus? Well, I guess maybe you don't know much about Charlie Kirk, but the point is for him to go to college campuses while school is in session so that he can engage with the people there. This was the very first event on this American Comeback Tour. So it was being held in this location on a Wednesday, likely because that was the date that the university said he could go ahead and do it, but most importantly, so that he could interact with the students. The suspect fired one shot from an elevated position on a rooftop in an adjacent building on the campus, and surveillance video shows the subject jumping off and fleeing the area on foot. ATF and other law enforcement located an older model imported Mauser 30-06 caliber bolt action rifle wrapped in a towel in a wooded area near the campus. The location of the firearm appears to match the suspect's route of travel. The spent cartridge was still chambered in addition to 3 unspent rounds at the top-fed magazine. And literally on a Mauser, you've got a little mag that just goes in at the top. So that means that they have the actual shell from the casing from the bullet that hit Charlie, and then there are additional bullets which are probably going to have fingerprints on them. An emergency trace has been submitted, and ATF SLC is working leads generated by the trace. This is notable here. All cartridges have engraved wording on them expressing transgender and anti-fascist ideology. The firearm and ammunition have been taken by the FBI for DNA analysis and fingerprint impressions. Upon completion of forensics, the firearm will be disassembled for additional importer information. They'll be able to tell where this gun was imported and when into the United States, and then the exact number of hands that it went through as it was sold and purchased throughout its time here in the United States after being imported. Multiple people of interest have contacted or detained because of witness testimony and review of video footage. The primary suspect is yet to be identified. ATF is assisting the investigation with multiple other federal, state, and local partners, and the case is co-led by the FBI and the Utah SBI, which is like the Utah Bureau of Investigation. So somebody leaked this to Steven Crowder, and we have the actual document right here. You can see this, just a picture taken from a phone, likely from somebody at the DOJ. And it has been confirmed to be a legitimate document. And again, the information that was given in the press conferences later, you can't see my face. What are you talking about? I'm right on screen. Because of the chat. I forgot to turn that off. Thank you. All right. So the FBI has officially asked for public assistance in reviewing the photographs of the individual that they have from security footage. And clearly, the initial statement that they wouldn't ask for assistance until it became necessary. I mean, that obviously has come into play. So George Zinn was the guy who was arrested on site. He was later released, but he's been charged with obstruction of justice. A second suspect was arrested about 50 miles away at Utah State University. His name is Zachariah Qureshi. He was taken into custody and then released after interrogation. Neither of them have any connections to each other, it would appear. Neither of them have any connections to the shooter. And the FBI has a media tip line that they've set up on their website, fbi.gov/Utah Valley shooting. The state crime lab and all law enforcement have been poring over the crime scenes. There was forensic evidence that was found at the crime scene itself. The FBI and local Utah officials gave about a 17-minute press conference early this morning. There have been people who have put together 3D renderings of the view. We saw a different angle of this from above yesterday. This is from Google Earth, but it does confirm that what we thought was the position of the shooter is definitely the position of the shooter. This is that same building where the person was seen running across. The FBI has confirmed that that was the person of interest. During this press conference, they also made it known that they have good footage of the shooter. They have high-quality images. Now, yesterday, when Utah officials had mentioned that they had some footage, but that it wasn't very high quality because of the quality of the cameras, that appears to be not exactly correct. Because there have been high-quality images that have been released. So the person was tracked as they jumped off the building and then fled into a neighborhood. They went into a wooded area. That wooded area is where the gun was found. And they said that the assassin appears to be college-aged. Next, the FBI released those photos just a couple of hours later. So here is a security camera image of him walking into the building, I believe. You can see he appears to be disguised, wearing a ball cap, wearing sunglasses. He has some type of vaguely patriotic shirt on with what appears to be an American flag and an eagle in front of it. Now, these photos are not particularly high res, but it does give us a bit of an idea about his build, his height, his posture, and certainly some of the features on his face. It was 16 minutes and 6 seconds. Now, I did find, also, the FBI has put out a $100,000 reward for anybody who gives information leading to the arrest of that person, clearly attempting to incentivize the community because somebody must know this person. If you do believe you know who that person is, the number to call is 1-800-CALL-FBI. And you can submit photos so that the FBI can match it up. Now, here is a higher resolution image, and this appears to have been passed through artificial intelligence, simply because I'm looking at the shirt here, and there is some strange artifacting. There's also, just some telltale signs in the face, like smoothing, upscaling. I can't tell. This looks like maybe this might be a snake or maybe a piece of poop. I can't really tell on the hat because it's been passed through AI. But the shirt itself definitely gives it away that this was pushed through AI. But that gives a much better idea of what this individual looks like. So just looking at the chin, looking at the lips, looking at the nose, looking at the ear. And, of course, the internet does what the internet does. And they believe that they may have discovered who this person is. I believe it was 4chan that figured this out. Nope, it actually may be a tranny. At least some of the images from their high school social media timeline appear to be somebody who might be a tranny. So the person in question that 4chan and the internet believes that they have identified is named Sky Valadez. It would be a biological male, but they identify as a she, her on social media. They live in the Salt Lake City metro area, and most damning, they have a SoundCloud account with an original song entitled Charlie Kirk's Death Isn't Enough for Me. And there is another one entitled Charlie Kirk Dead at 31. Both of these appear to be published prior to the murder of Charlie Kirk. So here are some photos from the social media profiles, and I'm going to say that the lips, the nose, and the chin appear to be a good match. You think the jawline is wrong? Well, that jawline that you just saw in that artificially enhanced photograph cannot be 100% matched one for one. So we would need to put these photos up against the grainier photos that we had. Now, people have submitted this to the FBI. So if this is Sky Valadez that committed the assassination, the FBI is going to be the one to determine that. Now, whether or not you believe the jawline is correct or not, or all of the facial features match up, we're looking at pictures from when they were in high school versus now when they are college age. So in that interim time, there could have been cross-sex hormones that were given. There could have been surgeries that were done. There could have been any number of things, including just the natural aging process. But the fact that they had a song called Charlie Kirk Dead at 31 by their band, God's Finest Scalpel, is far too coincidental. And you can see that right here, people commenting on it. FBI is coming to your door. You call it a coincidence, but I call it bullshit. Holy foreshadowing. What something track is this for? Okay. And then another person, I think I may have found the shooter's Facebook. It looks a lot like him. Now, I believe the Facebook has been taken down, which would only happen if Sky got wise to the fact that people were onto them. But I believe we have an archive right here, and you can see Sky has a whole bunch of friends, and wouldn't you know it, all of those friends were celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk. No workplace, no school, no high school, nothing. Let me see if we can get to photos in this archive. We cannot get to photos on the Facebook in this archive. Let's see if the SoundCloud is still up. Now, it's a different photo of a different person. It's a different name. There are no album tracks. And it links to a totally different band. So, covering their tracks, that is certainly notable. Valadez had this music project titled God's Finest Scalpel, and this digital album that I'm referring to with another song called Death to American Scum, Charlie Kirk's Death Isn't Enough for Me, and Charlie Kirk Dead at 31. Those were released on the album in April. Sky Valadez of Ogden, Utah, had this musical project. And let's see if we can actually attempt if they... No, I don't think that they got the songs themselves. This is a high school photo right here. And let me see. We've got the song. We've got the comments. We saw those. Okay, on their Instagram, they are saying they are not the shooter. While I appreciate the listens and streams, I need to use my platform to set something straight. I am not the shooter nor a current alumni at Utah Valley University. I had a dream back in March of this year when I recorded and debuted this song on SoundCloud. It's complicated and cheesy as F, but I did foresee the death of Charlie Kirk this year, however, not at a conference and not by the hand of a gun. I've never been a fan of Charlie Kirk, mostly because I live under the LGBTQ umbrella and disagree with everything he says. Then again, I hate all politicians and politics because it's such a wildfire of a situation already. I do not support the shooting in any way, but I am relieved that a Nazi sympathizer is no longer wasting my oxygen. They are also a member of the non-binary talk community on Reddit, it would appear. So, again, yeah, the guy looks older. That's a totally different picture. That's Nick Cave. Sky is an elementary school teacher and self-described autistic trans non-binary demi-boy. Her classroom displays pride flags and social justice propaganda posters.
I have a lot.
Okay, hold on. I don't want to hear the music, but let's go back and get a look at the face. So this would have been 2023.
Here's my classroom set up for this year. I use warm lighting versus pride flag, amplify posters, and social justice wall are all part of the design. I have a lot of books. Question. Here's my...
All right, so I'm not willing to say that this is 100% the person. Obviously, very strange that that individual would have those specific songs on their SoundCloud. A friend named Emily Vare had a photo with Valdez on social media, but pulled it down as buzz began about him potentially being the person the FBI is seeking. People have tagged the FBI in all of these. This is that picture of Emily with Sky at some point in the past. Again, you know, I'm saying that the posture and the build look similar, but can't say for certain whether that's it. People are fairly convinced, though. My research shows the person that shot Charlie Kirk is Sky Valdez of Riverdale, Utah. And let's see. And again, all of the social media has been taken down, so everything that we have is merely screen grabs. Look, there's some weird eyes wide shut stuff going on here. So we'll have to wait and see what the FBI has to say. Now, there was supposed to be another press conference, and Utah authorities postponed that press conference because they said that there were rapid developments that were taking place. Whether that was, you know, the investigation into the Sky Valdez, or they got another tip from someone, but it's likely due to tips that are coming in directly from the community. Now, we also have drone footage here from the site, which we can just use as a point of reference to get an idea of where everything was. Obviously, right there is the tent. Another thing, after they took Charlie away, some asshole went up and started stealing merch off the table. I couldn't believe it. Like, just scummy behavior. If anybody has a link that you feel I need to see, send it to my email, please, because I don't want people dropping stuff in the chat with how contentious this particular thing is. I've already had assholes show up in the chat baiting about, you know, Charlie getting killed. I've had people drop malicious things in the chat before. I don't want anybody to have their computer hacked or to get their information out there in a way that is going to damage them. If you send me a link, I can run it through a program to make sure that there's nothing malicious tied to it, and then I can pull it up on screen if it's relevant for what we're talking about. But this is, you know, about protecting all of us, you guys. I appreciate it. And I wouldn't ask if it hadn't happened before. All right, so yeah, this is the location where that person was running. You can see there's a ladder right there. I don't know if that's where they came down, but as the FBI said, they did come down off this roof. They could have come down there, shimmied across there, gotten over to this side, and then gone straight out into the parking lot, and that direction is the direction that they ran. And that wooded area on the other side of the building is where they found the rifle. Now, I will also be the first to say that it is totally expected that the person who they believe killed Charlie Kirk is a Truny Transtifa. It could also be a misdirect, right? There have already been a number of misdirects. For an example, I have seen people sharing this around. Brad and I saw this last night. We actually dove in while we were live on Altered State. There was a private jet with a tail number N888KG that departed Provo Airport an hour after the shooting. An hour after the shooting. Now, the aircraft number is not publicly available. There was also a do not follow, no tracking request that was put in by the owner of the aircraft. And about 30 minutes into flight, they're tracking ADSB disappeared and then reappeared as the airline was headed back into Provo. Now, I went and dug in on this. I used the tail number to determine who owned the aircraft. The aircraft is owned by an LLC, which is the tail number LLC. I used the LLC name to determine who were the owners of that LLC or who were officers of the LLC. And I found pretty quickly that it is a husband and wife. The husband is a former Silicon Valley tech bro who now owns a company called Unique Products. It's a cosmetics company. It's basically a multi-level marketing cosmetics company. Funnily enough, Shanann Watts from the Chris Watts case, she used to sell Unique when she was still alive. Now, this airplane does this trip like once a month or maybe once a week. They do it on a regular basis, and the transponder always cuts out when they get to a certain point. I don't know if that's because it's a dead zone or because the owner, because they're wealthy, they have the ability to cut that off and not suffer legal consequences. But I don't believe that this jet has anything to do with the assassination of Charlie. All right. Now, this is another thing. People were sharing this around. Can someone explain how Charlie's ring switched fingers? Okay, this is not going to show Charlie getting shot, but you can see he's got a ring on his ring finger, and he puts his hand below the lens of the camera, and when it comes back up, the ring has switched to his pinky finger. Take a look.
Not counting gang violence.
Okay, you can see it's on his ring finger.
Great.
Okay. And now it's on his pinky. All right. So a lot of people are asking, how is that possible? How could his ring in that split second go from one finger to the next? And found out pretty quickly that this is not like an enclosed ring like my wedding ring, okay? It's not an enclosed ring. It has an open back on it, and Charlie had a habit of moving it from finger to finger, okay? And you can see here in this video, that's exactly what he does. Okay, take a look. Open back, and he moves it around. He fiddles with it, and that's what happened. So, okay, and I have seen other pieces of footage of him doing this. All right, so I don't think that is AI. I don't think it appeared to be giving some type of signals, but I'll pull that up in just a moment. But I wanted to actually, I'll go ahead and do that right now. Hold on. Because we're going to get into some of the ugliness that people are posting about this. Hold on just a moment. Crap. I've got too many freaking links. Give me just a second. Okay, here it is. Here it is. Okay. So take a look at this, because this definitely
attempt on President Obama or President Biden. There was no assassination attempt on any of our Democrat colleagues.
No, this is only happening from one direction. And, always in cases like this, shootings, assassinations, we immediately think about MK Ultra. MK Ultra doesn't officially exist anymore. And I said this many years ago. I don't remember last time I repeated it, but MK Ultra didn't really go away. It just evolved into a softer and gentler type of mind control. They took what they learned in overt and violent forms of mind control, and they applied it into a broader sense sociologically. And that's why we've got people nowadays who are so ideologically brain dead and completely rotted out in the heads that they will support something like a belief that is inherently self-defeating, and they will attempt to kill people because that's the only way that they can get their point across. You guys, before we continue with the segment on people behaving badly, I do have to do a brief ad read from over here on Rumble. You guys, this portion of the show is brought to you by Zippix nicotine-infused toothpicks. If you can't vape, if you can't smoke, this is a satisfying, discreet, and great-tasting way to crave carvings anytime, anywhere. It's great if you're on the flight, if you're at an event, if you're in a restaurant, or just basically anywhere you can't vape and you can't smoke. Zippix satisfies both nicotine cravings and the hand-to-mouth habit with 6 long-lasting flavors. They come in 2 or 3 milligram strengths, proudly made in the USA, and one of the most cost-effective options out there. If you don't like nicotine, you can try out the caffeine or B12-infused toothpicks for a boost. Zip more, smoke less by visiting zippixtoothpicks.com and get 10% off your first order if you use the code CREATOR. But you have to be 21 and up. And remember, the nicotine is an addictive chemical, but it's also a chemical that will make you think better. All right, continuing here. Last night in Boise, there was a vigil for Charlie Kirk, and it was a peaceful event, and it went bad when some asshole drove up in the middle on a scooter, driving through the attendees and screaming obscenities like F Charlie Kirk, and immediately started a confrontation. So we've got video footage of it right here.
This guy's gonna get fucked. Some guy.
Yeah, boy. Yeah,
This guy 100% got his ass kicked. And I'm glad that they didn't kill him, because that obviously would have been used by the mainstream media. And then they would have justified once again the shooting of Charlie. So this goes on for some time. And I don't know if this individual was arrested or if anyone that, got in on the beating was arrested. But I think it's safe to say that he got the hell out of there. And police are right there. I just want to say I commend the police for not dragging people who were there to mourn Charlie into jail. Now, Elizabeth Warren, fucking cuckoo. Listen to this. She was asked about the murder of Charlie Kirk, and her response is probably not going to surprise you.
Oh, please. Right. Why don't you start with the President of the United States? Right? And every ugly meme he has posted and every ugly word.
So words and memes do not kill people. Rabid, brainwashed leftists are the ones who are out there killing people. Those are the people listening to those like Elizabeth Warren and the mainstream media, where President Trump and his supporters have been called threats to democracy. People have listened when they've been told that they got to put a bullet in Donald Trump or they got to beat the shit out of his supporters. Now, yesterday, I talked about the possibility that Charlie had some foreknowledge or